Most RDR2 players will tell you the Schofield is the best sidearm in the game. Better damage, better accuracy. The stats are right there in the gunsmith menu, but that answer is built on a lie. The same lie every weapon tier list on YouTube is built on. They rank guns by damage bars, by fire rate, by reload speed, numbers the game shows you. I'm a real-life doctor, and I can tell you damage bars don't kill people. Wounds kill people. And the type of wound a sidearm creates, where it lands, what it does to the body in the seconds after impact, that's what determines whether your Arthur Morgan walks away or bleeds out in the dirt. So today we're ranking every sidearm in Red Dead Redemption 2. All 4 revolvers, the Cattleman, the Schofield, the double action, and the LeMat, and all 4 pistols, the Volcanic, the M1899, the Mauser, and the semi-automatic. Not by what the compendium tells you, by what the human body tells me. Stay with me because this one goes deep. The Cattleman, the revolver you start the game with, the one most players discard the moment they can afford something better. And here's where everyone gets it wrong. The Cattleman is based on the Colt's single-action army, a weapon so effective it was called the Peacemaker, and served as the standard U.S. military sidearm for nearly 2 decades. In real-world terms, it fires a .45 caliber round at roughly 900 feet per second. That bullet is wide, heavy, and transfers enormous energy into whatever it hits. When a .45 long Colt round enters the chest, it doesn't just poke a hole. It creates a permanent wound cavity that tears muscle, severs blood vessels, collapses lung tissue, and around that cavity, there's a temporary cavity, a shock wave that stretches surrounding tissue far beyond the bullet's path. Hit the upper chest, and that pressure wave alone can stop the heart through pure hydrostatic shock. That's not game damage, that's physics. But the Cattleman's real strength, the thing no tier list talks about, is that it forces you to be deliberate. Single action. You have to cock the hammer between every round. That forced rhythm, that pause between shots, it's not a weakness. It's a training mechanism. It makes you aim, and that's the clinical truth. One well-placed Cattleman round to the upper chest does more to stop a threat than 6 poorly placed rounds from a faster gun. The Cattleman understands something the double action forgot. Accuracy isn't about the gun, it's about what the gun asks of you. Now the Schofield, the revolver everyone says is the best. And from a wound ballistics standpoint, they're not wrong. The real Smith & Wesson Schofield fired a .45 caliber round with a heavier powder, more velocity, more energy on impact, and the break-time design means faster reloading. Dump all 6 spent casings at once, slot in fresh rounds, close the frame. But here's the clinical reality that changes how you evaluate this weapon. The Schofield creates a deeper wound channel than the Cattleman. Same diameter, but the round penetrates farther before it stops. That means if you hit center mass, the Schofield round is more likely to reach the spine, the aorta, the structures deep in the chest that cause instantaneous incapacitation. The trade-off is controllability. The Schofield kicks harder, not dramatically harder, but enough that follow-up shots take a fraction of a second longer to align. In a revolver duel where you have 6 rounds and no margin for error, fractions of a second matter. Clinical verdict, highest single-shot stopping power of any conventional revolver in the game. If you hit what you're aiming at, the fight ends. But the Schofield rewards precision and punishes panic. And as a doctor, let me give you one more thing to think about. The Schofield's real-world counterpart was preferred by cavalry officers because the break-top design let them reload on horseback with one hand. That's not a stat in the game. But think about what it says about the weapon's philosophy. Every design choice, the power, the reload speed, the weight, is built around ending fights quickly. Now the double action, the most controversial revolver in RDR2, and the one where medical reality and game perception collide hardest. The double action fires fast. You pull the trigger, the hammer cocks and drops in one motion. On paper, faster fire rate means higher damage per second. That's the logic, and it's wrong. Here's why. The double action fires a smaller round. In the real world, the Colt double action of this era fired a .38 long Colt, narrower, lighter, less energy on impact. Smaller wound cavity, less hydrostatic shock. You need to hit something absolutely vital, the heart, the brain, a major artery, to achieve the same instant incapacitation that a Cattleman or Schofield gets from center mass alone. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is behavioral. The double action encourages you to shoot faster. And when you shoot faster, you aim worse. 6 poorly placed 38 rounds scattered across the arms, shoulders, and lower abdomen do less to stop a threat than one well-placed 45 round to the upper chest. Think of it this way. If a patient came into my emergency room with 6 shallow stab wounds spread across their torso, they'd likely survive. 1 deep stab wound to the heart, dead before they hit the floor. That's not an analogy. That's the actual clinical difference. The double action is the gun that makes you feel powerful while making you less effective. In a gunfight, as in surgery, volume never beats precision. And then there's the LeMat. 9 rounds, secondary shotgun blast. The weirdest revolver in the game, and from a medical standpoint, the most fascinating. The real LeMat was invented by a Confederate doctor, Jean-Alexandre LeMat, who understood something about combat trauma that most weapons designers missed. 9 .42 caliber rounds for ranged engagements, and a single 20-gauge shotgun barrel underneath the main barrel for close quarters devastation. From a wound ballistics perspective, this weapon gives you 2 completely different mechanisms of injury in one frame. The revolver rounds are roughly .42 caliber, smaller than the Cattleman's 45, but you have 9 of them, 50% more ammunition before reloading. In a prolonged engagement against multiple targets, the LeMat lets you stay in the fight when every other revolver is empty. But the shotgun blast, that's where the LeMat rewrites the rules. At close range, a 20-gauge shell creates multiple simultaneous wound channels. Instead of one bullet path through the body, you get a spread of pellets hitting across multiple organ systems at the same instant. The body can compensate for 1 wound. It cannot compensate for 8 wounds arriving simultaneously. Here's the clinical trade-off most players don't think about. The shotgun blast has a single shell. Once it's fired, you're back to revolver rounds. You have to decide before the fight gets close whether to use your one devastating shot now or save it for later. That's not a stat in the compendium. That's tactical triage. And it's the exact kind of decision a combat medic makes. Now, let's talk about the pistols. And this is where the rules change completely. Revolvers are deliberate. Pistols are fast. Revolvers reward patience. Pistols reward aggression. But here's what the game doesn't tell you. These weapons fire fundamentally different ammunition, and the wound profiles are nothing alike. Let's start with the Volcanic, the slowest pistol in the game. Clunky, awkward, and from a medical perspective, the most devastating handgun Arthur Morgan can carry. The real Volcanic pistol fired an unusual cartridge, a .41 caliber rocket ball with the powder packed inside the bullet itself. Low velocity, but the bullet was heavy, and when it hit, it transferred every ounce of its energy into the target. Think about what that means. A fast, light round like the Mauser's 7.63 millimeter can pass straight through a body. It might hit something vital, or it might create a clean entry and exit with minimal tissue disruption. But the Volcanic round, slow and heavy, dumps all of its energy inside the body. It doesn't exit, it stops. And when it stops, the surrounding tissue absorbs a shockwave that tears and cavitates far beyond the bullet's actual diameter. The Volcanic is not an elegant weapon, but clinically, it creates a wound profile closer to a rifle than a pistol. 1 Volcanic round to center mass is devastating in a way that multiple Mauser hits may not be. The trade-off is rate of fire. The Volcanic is agonizingly slow. Between shots, your target can close distance, return fire, find cover. It demands absolute accuracy because a miss is more punishing with this weapon than any other. The Mauser, the C96, the first truly successful semi-automatic pistol in history. Magazine-fed, fast-firing, 10 rounds before reloading. And here's where game logic and clinical reality diverge hardest. The Mauser fires a 7.63 millimeter bottleneck round, roughly the diameter of a pencil. It moves fast, it penetrates deep, but it creates a narrow permanent wound channel. Compare that to the Cattleman's .45 caliber. Slower, wider, tearing through tissue and leaving a much larger path of destruction. The Mauser is a scalpel, precise, fast, but you need to hit something vital. A Mauser round through the liver will eventually kill someone, from blood loss over minutes or hours. A Cattleman round through the same location might kill them in seconds, simply because the wound cavity is larger and more tissue is destroyed. But here's where the Mauser earns its place. 10 rounds. Fast follow-up. And in a clinical context, multiple small wounds in the same anatomical region compound into catastrophic damage. 2 Mauser rounds clustered in the upper chest create the same incapacitation as 1 Schofield round. And the Mauser lets you place those 2 rounds faster than the Schofield can place one. The Mauser doesn't reward single-shot precision. It rewards pattern placement. Put 3 rounds in the same fist-sized area of the chest, and the cumulative trauma is overwhelming. The M1899 is the newest sidearm in the game, a semi-automatic pistol that represents the direction firearms were heading at the turn of the century. Fast cycling, detachable magazine. Modern in a way the Revolvers simply aren't. From a wound ballistics perspective, the M1899 is similar to the Mauser. A fast, smaller caliber round that trades raw stopping power for volume and speed. The clinical difference is in the platform itself. The M1899 handles better than the Mauser. Faster reload, better sight picture, more controllable under rapid fire. What that means clinically is that the M1899 lets you maintain accuracy at speed. You get the volume advantage of a semi-automatic without fully sacrificing the precision that makes the Schofield deadly. It's a compromise weapon. Not the hardest hitter, not the fastest shooter, but the one that balances both demands most effectively. And finally, the semi-automatic pistol, the fastest firing sidearm in the game. And from a clinical perspective, the one that embodies a dangerous philosophy. The semi-automatic fires faster than the Mauser. More rounds, less time between shots. On paper, maximum damage per second. But here's the medical reality. Every round the semi-automatic fires is a smaller caliber projectile traveling at high velocity. The wound channels are narrow. The tissue disruption per round is minimal. You need to land multiple hits in vital areas to achieve the same incapacitation that 1 Schofield or Cattleman round delivers. The semi-automatic encourages you to trade accuracy for volume, and that is almost always the wrong trade. 12 scattered hits do less than 3 clustered hits. The game's damage system hides this from you, but the human body doesn't lie. If the Mauser is a scalpel, the semi-automatic is throwing scalpels and hoping one lands somewhere important. So now we need to answer the bigger question. Not just which weapon is best, but which philosophy wins, revolvers or pistols. Deliberate power or sustained volume? Here's the clinical truth. Revolvers kill with authority, 1 round, significant tissue disruption. The body cannot compensate for the wound because the wound is too large. This is the philosophy of stopping power. End the fight in as few shots as possible. Pistols kill with accumulation, multiple rounds, smaller wounds that compound into catastrophic damage. This is the philosophy of volume. Overwhelm the body's ability to compensate for injury by hitting it faster than it can respond. In a real 1899 gunfight, the revolver philosophy wins. You have limited ammunition, you have limited time. The target is moving, you're moving. Every round counts. The revolver's forced deliberation, that pause between shots that video game players treat as a weakness, is a combat advantage. It makes you aim. And aiming is the only stat that actually matters. In a video game where you can carry hundreds of rounds and reload in seconds, the pistol philosophy wins. Volume eventually overcomes accuracy. If you can fire 20 rounds in the time your opponent fires 6, statistics say you'll land more hits. But here's the thing. Arthur Morgan isn't playing a video game. He's living in a world where 1 bullet can end his life. And in that world, the weapon that makes you slow down and aim is the weapon that keeps you alive. So, the definitive clinical ranking of every sidearm in Red Dead Redemption 2. Number 8, the semi-automatic pistol. Fastest firing, lowest per-shot lethality. It encourages everything that's clinically wrong about gunfighting. Spray instead of aim. Number 7, the double-action revolver. Fires fast for a revolver, but the smaller .38 caliber round and the accuracy penalty make it a trap. Looks good on paper, fails in practice. Number 6, the Mauser pistol. 10 rounds and excellent penetration, but the narrow wound channel demands perfect shot placement, a specialist weapon. Number 5, the M1899 pistol. The best balance in the pistol category. Fast enough for volume, controllable enough for accuracy. The modern compromise. Number 4, the LeMat Revolver. 9 rounds plus a shotgun shell is devastating on paper, but the tactical complexity of managing 2 fire modes and the smaller caliber hold it back. Incredible in the right hands. Number 3, the Volcanic pistol. The slowest sidearm creates the most devastating individual wounds in the pistol category. If you hit, they stay hit. But that if is a big one. Number 2, the Cattleman Revolver. The baseline nobody respects. Force, deliberation, .45 caliber authority. One well-placed shot ends the fight. The weapon that makes you a better shooter simply by using it. Number 1, the Schofield Revolver. Highest single-shot stopping power, deeper penetration, faster reload. In the hands of a shooter who can place rounds accurately under pressure, the Schofield ends fights faster than any other sidearm in the game. But here's the truth that matters more than any ranking. The best sidearm in Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't the one with the highest damage bar. It's the one you shoot best. Most players walk into a gunsmith, compare stat bars, and pick the Schofield because the damage number is bigger. And on the surface, they're right. But those numbers don't tell you about wound cavitation. They don't tell you about hydrostatic shock. They don't tell you that a slow, deliberate Cattleman will keep you alive longer than a fast, sloppy semi-automatic. Because the Cattleman makes you aim, and aiming is the only stat that actually matters. The sidearms in Red Dead Redemption 2 aren't just game mechanics. They're representations of the real tools that real gunslingers trusted with their lives. And understanding how they actually work, what happens when the round hits flesh, not just what the damage bar says, changes everything about how you play. If you want me to do this for the repeaters, the rifles and the shotguns, the full weapon catalog, drop a comment and let me know. I'm Doc Plays, real doctor, real gamer, and I'll see you in the next one.